Why was she standing so still when everyone else seemed in motion? Boots shuffled, papers slid across the table, the hum of projectors filled the room. But she stayed frozen, her gaze fixed on the blank wall beyond the screen. A silence clung to her shoulders. Maybe no one noticed. Maybe that's what she wanted. Or maybe it was easier if they didn't look at her. Because what came next would demand more than orders, more than training. It would demand something she wasn't sure she still had. The officer's voice broke through the haze, sharp, cold, tactical, primary target, coordinates confirmed, secondary resistance likely, window for action 4 hours. The words hit like dull steel, necessary, precise, stripped of everything human. She adjusted her posture as if discipline alone could hold her together. Around her, men scribbled notes, traded quick glances, nodded as if they'd done this 100 times. Maybe they had, but for her, tonight was different. Tonight was a debt. Her name hadn't been spoken yet. That was normal. No one said her name when it mattered. She had been the shadow, the quiet professional, a pilot who once soared with reckless pride, a sniper who once never missed, a soldier who carried scars where no one could see them. But regret haunted her days. It came in fragments, faces she couldn't forget, moments she replayed in silence. The night she made the wrong call, the comrade who never came back, the split second when hesitation cost more than bullets ever could. That was the memory that kept her from sleep, that wrapped her chest in iron whenever briefing rooms went quiet. And now here she was again. Operative Vega, the commander finally said, his tone flat. Her title, not her name, never her name. You'll be our eyes, our silent cover. Nothing gets through without your scope clearing it first. Every pair of eyes flicked to her just for a second, then away. A recognition of her role, her skill, but beneath it, a whisper of judgment. They hadn't forgotten her past either. She gave a curt nod. Understood. 2 syllables, steady voice. That was all they needed. That was all she could allow. But inside, a different storm churned. Could she trust herself this time? Could she silence the ghosts long enough to pull the trigger when it mattered? The mission plan unfolded with clinical efficiency. Maps spread, routes traced, contingencies listed, but Vega's thoughts drifted. Her fingers tapped lightly against her knee, restless, betraying the calm mask she wore. She saw the faces of the team, young, tired, determined, some with smiles too sharp covering fear, some with eyes that carried too much weight already. She knew their type, she knew their stories, and if she let herself, she would remember them later, when it was too late. But one soldier stood out. A corporal, younger than the rest, kept stealing glances at her, not with judgment, more with curiosity, or maybe doubt. His hands shook slightly when he lifted his cup of water. He wasn't ready. She knew the signs. She had been him once. The thought hit hard, once before the mistake. The briefing ended as abruptly as it began. Chairs scraped. Voices rose, blending into the white noise of anticipation. Gear clattered, zippers rasped, weapons checked. Vega rose last, always last. Her boots echoed against the floor as she walked out, slow, deliberate. Outside, the air hit her like a wall, cool night pressing against skin already warmed with tension. The base lights stretched shadows across the tarmac. Helicopters waited, rotors dormant but ready. Engines whispered promises of violence and redemption. She paused, taking in the smell of fuel, the low murmur of mechanics, the distant bark of orders. It was all too familiar. She could almost time her heartbeat to it. Almost. The corporal from earlier stumbled past her, nearly dropping his helmet. She caught it mid-fall, steady hand, quick reflex. His eyes met hers, embarrassed, grateful. "Thanks," he muttered. She gave a faint nod, no words, but something in his face lingered with her. He reminded her of someone, a friend, a brother, a memory she buried under too many missions. As she walked to her assigned position, the weight of her rifle pressed against her shoulder. Comfort and burden in one, a tool of precision, a reminder of every choice she had made. Her mind replayed the night that defined her regret, A rooftop, wind slicing across her cheek, a breath held too long, a hesitation that broke the chain of trust. She never told anyone what went wrong. She never would. But the silence carved into her heart had never healed. That's why tonight mattered. The mission clock ticked down. They lifted into the sky. The helicopter shuddered, blades thrumming against the dark. Inside, red light painted every face in a shade of blood. Men checked their gear, some muttering prayers, some closing their eyes as if already dreaming of home. Vega sat apart, rifle across her knees, fingers tracing its metal like an old scar. The corporal sat near her, sneaking another glance. He wanted to ask something. She could feel it, but he didn't. Not yet. Instead, he whispered something to the soldier beside him, something about not wanting to screw up. Vega caught the words even above the engine roar. She turned her head, not enough to draw attention, but enough to let her eyes rest on him. A part of her wanted to speak, to say, "You will screw up. Everyone does. The question is, can you live with it afterward?" But she said nothing. Silence was her armor. The city stretched below them, lights scattered like embers across the dark. Somewhere down there, enemies waited. Somewhere down there, she would aim and fire and erase a life with the pull of her finger. Somewhere down there, redemption or damnation lay waiting. Her heartbeat synced with the rotor blades. Her jaw clenched. She wondered if anyone could see the storm inside her. She hoped not. The helicopter descended, skimming low. Dust whipped against the fuselage, rattling teeth, clouding vision. Boots hit the ground one by one like drumbeats of inevitability. Vega landed last, rifle steady, eyes scanning the horizon. The air smelled of sand and smoke. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Somewhere else, silence swallowed entire streets. The team moved forward, shadows among shadows. Vega climbed to her overwatch point, a crumbling building scarred by old battles. She settled into position, scope sweeping, breath steadying. From here she could see it all. Every alley, every corner, every risk. And yet her mind kept pulling her back. To the face of the one she lost. To the scream she never admitted hearing. To the mistake that branded her. "Eyes up, Vega," the commander's voice crackled in her earpiece. "We need your clarity." Clarity, if only he knew. Through her scope she saw movement, a figure slipping between shadows. Civilian, enemy, she couldn't tell. Her finger tightened on the trigger, her breath caught. And then nothing, the figure vanished. She whispered to herself, so low no one else could hear, "Not again." The night stretched ahead, heavy with silence and danger. But inside her something shifted, a resolve fragile but present. Tonight would not be a repeat of the past. Tonight she would act no matter the cost. The question was, when the moment came, would she still believe it? What was it about silence that felt louder than chaos? She lay prone on the rooftop, cheek pressed to the rifle's stock, eye fixed to the scope. The city stretched beneath her like a labyrinth of secrets. Streets empty, doors closed, windows watching. The kind of silence that never lasted. The kind that meant danger was waiting just out of sight. Her breath slowed the way she'd trained. In, out, measure the rhythm. But her heart wouldn't obey. It kicked against her ribs like it wanted out, like it knew the ghosts waiting here weren't all flesh and bone. Below, her team moved in formation, shadows slipping through alleys. Their boots barely made a sound on the sand-coated pavement, yet Vega tracked each one with surgical precision. Protecting them wasn't just her job, it was her penance. The corporal from earlier, the nervous one, lagged half a step behind. She noticed. She always noticed. He scanned too fast, his head jerking left and right, his nerves written in the twitch of his fingers near the trigger. He'd break under pressure if no one anchored him. Vega clenched her jaw. Could she afford to? "Movement 2 o'clock," she whispered into her mic, voice steady, stripped of doubt. The team froze. Their eyes swept the direction she called, rifles aimed. Seconds ticked. Then nothing, just a curtain swaying in the dry wind. "Copy," the commander replied. His tone clipped, but there was trust there. trust she didn't always feel she deserved. Her finger hovered near the trigger guard, muscles taut. She wanted to believe this unease was just nerves, but unease had saved her before, and unease had damned her too. She shifted slightly, scope narrowing on a rooftop across the street. A shadow lingered longer than it should, human, watching. Her breath stilled, this was it. She lined the crosshairs. One pull, one breath, and she could end a threat before it became one. But her finger froze, not because of doubt, because of memory. A flashback, raw and merciless. Another rooftop, another shadow. She'd waited too long then, and someone she cared for never made it back. Her pulse roared in her ears. Not again. Her finger squeezed. The rifle kicked against her shoulder, sharp and final. The shadow dropped out of view. Silence followed, heavier than before. For a moment she closed her eyes. Relief, fear, regret. They tangled together, choking her throat. She had acted this time, she had pulled the trigger. But the question lingered, had she been right? The commander's voice broke in, calm but firm. Good eyes keep us moving. Approval simple, unemotional. Yet it settled something in her chest, even if only for a moment. The team advanced deeper into the city. Doors creaked, dogs barked in the distance, a baby cried and then fell silent. The human sounds cut deeper than gunfire ever could. They reminded her that every wall hid stories, families, lives caught in the crossfire of decisions made far away. Vega adjusted her scope again, tracking every corner, but her mind refused to stay quiet. It drifted, uninvited, to her past, to that night years ago when everything unraveled. It had been a mission like this. Overwatch, simple in theory, but she had hesitated, she had second-guessed. The shot that could have saved a friend, no, a brother-in-arms, never came. By the time she fired, it was too late. He had bled out before the medics even arrived. The image of his face, pale and slack, haunted her. Worse, the silence of the others afterward, the way they avoided her gaze, the way no one said outright what they all thought, that she had failed, that her hesitation had cost a life. She carried that silence with her into every mission since. Vega, the commander's voice pulled her back. Check North Alley, we're blind there. Copy, she replied instantly, as if the ghosts hadn't dragged her under seconds ago. She swung her scope. The alley stretched long, dim, littered with debris. At the far end, a figure emerged. A woman, headscarf fluttering in the wind. She held something small clutched to her chest. A child, a bundle. Vega's breath caught. Through the scope, she saw the fear etched on the woman's face. Not the fear of soldiers, but the fear of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Civilian, unarmed, Vega murmured. Her finger stayed away from the trigger. The commander hesitated on comms. Log and ignore, eyes forward. The woman darted back into the shadows, gone as quickly as she appeared. Vega's hands trembled slightly as she steadied her rifle again. She hated moments like that. They tore open the line between soldier and human, and sometimes the line refused to close. Minutes stretched into an hour. The team advanced building by building, securing ground, marking safe routes. Vega watched from above, every heartbeat tied to their safety. Each time the corporal faltered, her scope found him first, ready to cover. Each time the sergeant at point raised his fist, she scanned beyond him, anticipating threats before they appeared. And then the explosion. A thunderous roar split the silence, a shockwave rolling through the streets. Dust and fire erupted from a corner building, tossing debris into the sky. Vega's vision blurred for a second, ears ringing. Contact, contact, voices screamed through comms. She forced her scope steady, lungs burning. Figures burst from the smoke, armed, fast, yelling war cries that cut through the dust. Her rifle barked again and again. Targets dropped one by one, precise shots threading through chaos. The team scrambled for cover, firing back, pinned by the sudden onslaught. Vega's scope found the corporal. He froze in the open, eyes wide, body locked. An enemy sprinted toward him, weapon raised. Her heart clenched. This was it, the same choice, the same moment, the one that had broken her before. No hesitation. Her shot cracked the air. The enemy crumpled feet away from the young soldier. The corporal stumbled back, alive, gasping, eyes flicking up toward the rooftop where he knew she watched. Their gazes met for a heartbeat. His expression wasn't gratitude, it was shock. Awe, a silent question. Why me? Her throat tightened. She turned back to the fight. The firefight raged for long minutes, the night torn apart by muzzle flashes and screams. Vega worked mechanically, her training taking over. Each pull of the trigger was sharp, decisive. Each breath between shots was a prayer she didn't believe in anymore. And then silence again. Broken walls, broken bodies, the acrid stench of explosives. Clear, the commander's voice rasped through static. Vega sagged slightly against her rifle, sweat stinging her eyes. Her hands shook only after the danger passed, not during, always afterward. The corporal's voice crackled faintly over comms, shaky. If she hadn't, he trailed off, words swallowed by the dead air. Vega exhaled slow. She didn't want his thanks. She didn't want his words. What she wanted, what she needed, was something no soldier could give. Redemption. As the team regrouped, Vega stayed on her rooftop, scope sweeping the horizon, eyes sharper than her body felt. The commander didn't ask if she was okay. No one ever did. That was fine. She didn't deserve their concern. But for the first time in years, she had acted without hesitation. For the first time, she had saved someone instead of losing them. The thought was fragile, like glass in her chest. It might shatter the next moment. But for now it stayed whole. Night pressed heavier around them. The mission wasn't over. This was only the beginning. And she knew redemption wasn't earned in one choice. It demanded more, much more. Still, as she reloaded her rifle and steadied her breath, Vega whispered to herself, so softly it was almost a secret. Not this time. The city didn't answer. But inside, a spark lit where only shadows had lived before. Why did her hands always shake after, but never during? Vega crouched on the rooftop, rifle resting across her lap, eyes scanning the fractured street below. The echoes of gunfire still clung to the air, trapped between the walls. Smoke drifted lazily, curling like ghosts escaping broken windows. Somewhere a dog barked again, then fell silent. Even silence felt wounded here. Her comms buzzed. The commander's voice came through, roughened by dust and adrenaline. Team moving west. Vega, maintain overwatch. Copy. Her voice didn't crack. It never did. She shifted her scope, watching the squad regroup below. Helmets smeared with soot. Eyes darting too quickly. One man leaned against a wall, chest heaving, whispering something Vega couldn't hear. She didn't need to. She recognized the posture of someone bargaining with himself, promising survival, promising he'd see tomorrow. The corporal, his helmet sat crooked, dust streaking his cheeks. He looked younger now, shaken, still alive because of her, and he knew it. Their eyes brushed once more, and he gave the smallest nod. Respect, gratitude, or maybe just acknowledgement. Vega turned away before it could matter. Her scope drifted across the horizon. Every shadow was a possibility, every corner a threat, but her mind wouldn't stay anchored to the present. It slid backward, as if regret itself had hands pulling her into memory. The night she failed. She could still smell the gun oil, the acrid smoke of a distant fire, the way the wind tugged at her scarf on that rooftop. Her target had appeared too far, too faint. She hesitated. She told herself she needed clarity, one more second. And in that second everything unraveled. The man she was supposed to protect fell. His blood soaked into concrete she couldn't touch. Her finger squeezed too late. She remembered the comms going quiet, the commander's voice breaking only to confirm a casualty, and the silence afterward, the silence of judgment. Her jaw clenched. She forced herself back to the present. She couldn't afford ghosts right now. The squad pushed forward, clearing street by street. Vega shadowed their movement from above, always a step ahead with her scope. When they paused at an intersection, she whispered coordinates. When the sergeant raised his fist, she scanned faster, searching for danger they couldn't see. The city itself felt alive, watching them. Windows shuttered, doors locked. A curtain shifted, then stilled. No civilian stepped into the open. Too quiet. "Something's wrong," Vega murmured. "Define wrong," the commander replied, but his voice carried unease. She didn't answer, she couldn't define it, she just knew. And then it happened. A sound too sharp for the night. Metal on concrete, a clatter that froze every breath. "Grenade!" someone screamed. Time fractured. The explosion ripped through the intersection, flames licking the air, dust choking lungs. Vega's ears rang, her vision blurred. Through the haze, she saw shapes darting from doorways, armed insurgents pouring into the street. Her scope snapped into focus. Training took over. One shot, then another, then another. She didn't think, she didn't breathe, she just acted. But the chaos below was worse. The squad scattered for cover, some firing blind, some pinned down. The corporal was thrown against a wall, coughing, dazed. His rifle skidded out of reach. Vega's chest tightened. She found herself whispering aloud, though no one could hear, "Move, get up, please." The corporal crawled toward his weapon, but an insurgent closed in fast. Vega fired, clean shot, body dropping before it reached him. Another enemy appeared. Another shot. Her world narrowed to crosshairs and breath, to the rhythm of life and death. And then she saw it, something worse. Above the street, a rooftop figure braced with a launcher on his shoulder, aimed at the squad, at them. Her blood went cold. She exhaled, crosshairs centered, finger pressed. But the shot missed, just by an inch. Her heart seized. "Launcher rooftop east," she shouted. The squad dove for cover as the rocket hissed through the air. It struck a building beside them, blasting concrete and flame. Dust swallowed the street. Her hands shook violently now, but she forced another shot, steadied through grit and rage. This time the rooftop figure collapsed, weapon clattering uselessly. Breath ragged, vision blurred, she pulled herself back. The squad scrambled through smoke, wounded but alive. "Status," the commander barked. One by one, voices checked in. The corporal's voice cracked, but it came. "Alive." Vega closed her eyes for a second. Relief flooded through her, tainted with shame. She had almost failed them. Again. The fight ebbed. Enemies scattered, their attack broken. The street lay in ruins, dust swirling like storm clouds. The squad regrouped, coughing, limping, but still standing. "Vega," the commander's voice cut through, softer this time. "Your call saved us." Her lips parted, but no words came. Saved. The word burned her, because she hadn't, not completely. One missed shot had almost cost everything. And that miss, no one would forget. She certainly wouldn't. The corporal sat against the wall, helmet off, face pale. His hands shook as he lit a cigarette with clumsy fingers. His eyes found her rooftop. He raised the cigarette in a silent salute. Not mocking, not casual, something heavier. Something she didn't know how to accept. She looked away. The squad pressed on, slower now, weighted by dust and exhaustion. Vega followed, scope sweeping, rifle heavy. Her body ached, but it was her mind that carried the true weight. She thought about the corporal, young, shaken, still alive because of her, and in danger of dying again tomorrow. Was that redemption or just prolonging the inevitable? Her comms crackled again. The commander's voice carried a new tone, colder. "Intel confirms secondary target ahead. This gets harder now." Vega's stomach nodded. Harder, always harder. The night pressed closer, wrapping around them. She whispered to herself, steadying breath, steadying hands. Not again, not tonight. But deep down, a question gnawed at her. How many chances at redemption did one soldier get before fate closed the book? Why did the night feel heavier now, as if the city itself was closing in on them? Vega shifted her position on the rooftop, rifle sweeping across broken alleys and scarred walls. The firefight's echoes still lingered, carried by the dry wind. Every shadow seemed darker, every sound sharper. The squad below moved with new caution, shoulders hunched, weapons tight, as though the street itself might betray them. Her scope paused on the corporal. His helmet hung loosely now, chin strap unbuckled. His cigarette was gone, but the tremor in his hands remained. He scanned too quickly, missed details, leaned on instinct instead of discipline. He was still raw, still green. And yet, he was alive. Alive because she had pulled the trigger when it mattered. For years she had asked herself if she'd ever act fast enough again. Now she had, twice. But the doubt didn't fade. It clung tighter, whispering, "What about next time?" "Eyes north, Vega," the commander's voice cut in. "Intel says hostile presence near the mosque." "Copy." She swung her rifle, adjusting the scope. The mosque stood tall against the night, its dome scarred by shrapnel, its walls cracked from battles long past. Silence draped it now, too heavy to trust. Movement flickered at its base, a group of figures slipping in through a side entrance, armed, methodical. "Multiple contacts entering," she murmured. The commander cursed under his breath. "That's our path, we move in." The squad adjusted course, hugging shadows, inching closer to the mosque. Vega tracked every window, every door, scanning for signs of ambush. Her body felt mechanical, but her mind was elsewhere. She remembered another building, another night. A school once turned into a battlefield. Her team had been ambushed there too, and in the confusion she had hesitated again. One of her closest friends, Tors, had been pinned down inside. She had a clean shot on his attacker, but fear of hitting him froze her. By the time she took it, Tors was already gone. She still remembered the way his voice cracked over comms in his last seconds. She had replayed it countless nights since, as if she could alter the outcome by sheer memory. Her chest ached. She blinked hard, forcing herself back. Not tonight. The squad reached the mosque's courtyard, crouching behind broken stone walls. Vega adjusted her scope, covering every angle. Through the crack of a shattered window she caught a glimpse of their enemy. Masks, rifles, calm, practiced movement, not amateurs. This would be no quick fight. The commander's voice was low, steady. "We breach in 60. Vega, eyes on upper windows." She steadied her rifle, breath slow. Through the scope the world shrank. A window framed a figure packing with purpose. She tracked him, finger ready. But then something else caught her eye. A flash of color behind another window, a small hand, a child. Her breath hitched. "Commander," she whispered, voice tight. "Civilians inside, at least one child." The comms went silent. Seconds stretched. Finally his voice returned, clipped heavy. "Copy. Adjust accordingly, but we move. We don't get another window." Vega swallowed hard. She wanted to argue, to demand a change. But orders were orders, and she knew hesitation here could doom them all. Her scope swept again, tracking shadows. Enemies shifted positions. Civilians hidden among them. It was a nightmare. One wrong shot and she'd carry new ghosts forever. 30 seconds, the commander said. The squad tightened grips on their rifles. The corporal looked pale, jaw clenched. Vega wanted to tell him something, anything to anchor him, but her voice stayed locked behind her teeth. She was no mentor, no guide, just the shadow above them. 10. She steadied her breath, scope aligned. 3, 2, 1. The breach erupted. The squad stormed the mosque, boots pounding, rifles blazing. Shouts tore through the night, English commands clashing with foreign screams. Vega tracked the windows, shots ringing from her rifle. One target down. Another stumbled. A third collapsed before he could fire. She moved mechanically, her scope the only clarity she had. But then chaos. Through her scope she saw the corporal inside, pressed against a wall. An enemy lunged from behind, knife flashing. Vega's blood iced. No clean angle. If she fired, she risked hitting him. If she didn't. Her hands froze, heart racing. Not again, not again. The corporal turned at the last second, slamming his rifle butt into the attacker's face. The knife scraped past his shoulder, drawing blood but missing lethal. He shoved the man back and fired point-blank. The sound jolted Vega. Relief and guilt slammed together in her chest. She had frozen again. Frozen. And this time the young soldier had saved himself. Her throat tightened, bile rising. What kind of redemption was this, if her silence still almost killed? Inside the mosque, the firefight roared. Vega fired again, covering angles, taking down threats before they reached her squad. But her hands shook harder now. Her vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. The commander's voice cut in. Building secure, 2 wounded stable, 1 civilian extracted. Vega exhaled sharply, lowering her rifle for the first time in hours. Her body sagged, every muscle trembling with exhaustion. But her mind screamed. She had hesitated again, and though no one died this time, she felt the weight of failure pressing harder. Redemption wasn't about survival, it was about choice, and her choice had been silence. She remained on the rooftop, staring at the mosque's cracked dome under the pale moonlight. Smoke seeped from broken windows. The sound of coughing civilians drifted faintly, mingling with the low voices of soldiers checking the wounded. The corporal stepped out into the courtyard, his arm bandaged. His eyes searched the rooftops until they found her. He didn't salute this time, didn't nod. He just looked at her, gaze steady, unflinching. Not with blame, not with gratitude, something deeper, something she didn't know how to name. She looked away first. The commander's voice returned, low, grim. Secondary objective confirmed. Intel suggests movement east. We're not done. Not done, of course not. Missions never ended with relief. They ended with another order, another step deeper into the dark. Vega adjusted her rifle, repositioned, steadied her breath again. Her body screamed for rest, her soul begged for release. But she had neither, only the next watch, the next choice, the next shot. She whispered to herself, voice cracking, almost a prayer, "Don't let me freeze again." The city didn't answer, the night didn't care. But for a fleeting moment, she imagined Tor's face, her fallen comrade, and wondered if he would have forgiven her by now. The thought stayed with her as the squad moved east, disappearing into the ruins. The city's silence was deceptive. To anyone listening from afar, it might have seemed like the firefight at the mosque had been the climax, the storm breaking against stone, then fading into uneasy calm. But Vega knew better. Wars didn't stop for breath. They shifted, adapted, and crept closer when you thought you bought a reprieve. From her rooftop vantage, she watched the squad regroup in the narrow street below. The commander consulted his map under the dull glow of a red-filtered flashlight, the corporal leaning against a wall, clutching his wounded arm. Their faces were drawn, shadows cutting deeper into their features. Each man and woman looked older than they had an hour ago, as if the firefight had carved years into them. Vega status, the commander's voice cut across comms. Overwatch secure, no movement west, possible echo east 2 clicks out. He didn't hesitate. That's our route, we move, same cover pattern. She shifted her rifle, scanning the direction they would take. East meant deeper into the old quarter, where buildings leaned close and alleys twisted like veins. It meant fewer clear sightlines, fewer exits. It meant more traps. She wanted to protest, to recommend a safer path, but her voice stayed locked. She wasn't in command. She was the ghost above, a trigger without authority. The squad moved. Vega shadowed them from above, leaping rooftops where she could, scaling narrow ledges, her rifle always scanning. The city creaked beneath her boots, old stone whispering memories of battles long buried. Then she heard it. Not gunfire, not footsteps, a sound far heavier, memory. Every alley blurred into another night years ago when her old unit had walked this same kind of path. Tors had been in the lead, laughing about something stupid, a football match maybe, when the ambush hit. Gunfire, grenades, shouts that cut the night apart. Vega had been above, just like now, scope on the chaos. She remembered her hands trembling, her breath catching as Tors called for cover. She had the shot. She had it. But she had hesitated. The guilt punched through her chest as if the city itself had dragged it up from the ruins. She blinked hard, pulled herself back into the present. Not now. Not now. Contact left. The shout jolted her. The squad dropped low, rifles aimed into a dark alley branching off their path. Vega swung her scope. Shadows moved, shapes slipping along the walls too quick to count. She fired, one figure dropped, the rest scattered, but the silence didn't return, it shattered into chaos. Gunfire erupted from the rooftops ahead. The squad scrambled for cover, pinned behind crumbling walls and burnt-out vehicles. Vega adjusted, firing fast, picking off targets where she could. But there were too many angles, too many muzzle flashes sparking from the dark. The corporal ducked low, blood soaking his sleeve again. His weapon barked, but his aim was wild now, pain breaking his rhythm. Vega tracked an enemy lining him up and froze. The man's silhouette blurred, her scope wavered, her trigger finger locked. What if I miss? What if I? The commander's voice snapped her out. Vega, take the shot. Her heart lurched, she fired. The enemy collapsed a second before he pulled the trigger. Her breath came in ragged gasps. For an instant she thought she might vomit, but the squad didn't stop, didn't breathe. They surged forward, breaking the ambush with raw momentum. Vega followed, her legs trembling as she sprinted rooftop to rooftop. Her lungs burned. Her hands shook even as they reloaded, the click of the magazine too loud in the quiet between bursts. Finally, silence again. The last hostile crumpled in the dust. The street was littered with shadows that wouldn't rise again. The commander's voice came low, harsh. Secure the street, check corners. The squad spread out, their exhaustion masked by drilled precision. Vega kept her rifle trained, though her vision tunneled, her mind screaming at her for freezing again. She had fired, yes, but only when ordered, only when her commander's voice broke through the chokehold of fear. The corporal slumped against a wall, sliding down until he sat in the dust. He pressed a bloodied rag to his wound, his chest heaving. His helmet had fallen somewhere in the chaos. His eyes lifted toward her rooftop. This time he didn't look at her like a shadow. He looked at her like a question. Why had she hesitated? Why had she needed someone else to tell her to act? She looked away, shame scalding her skin. The commander's voice pulled her back. We keep moving. Objectives 2 streets down. Intel says there's a cache, weapons, comms, maybe worse. We clear it. There was no pause for grief. No moment for the fallen enemies. Just forward, always forward. Vega followed as they advanced, her chest tight. Each step felt heavier, as though the city itself pressed down on her shoulders. She tried to focus on her scope, her training, the rhythm of breathing and aiming, but her mind wouldn't quiet. She thought of Tors, of the civilians in the mosque, of the corporal's steady gaze, and of herself, the soldier who claimed she wanted redemption, but kept freezing in the moments that mattered. They reached the building, an old school half-collapsed, windows shattered, doors broken. Her heart stuttered. The same kind of building where Tors had died. Her knees nearly buckled. The weight of memory slammed into her so hard she thought she might collapse, but the squad didn't notice. They stacked on the entrance, rifles ready. The commander's voice came calm, firm. Vega, cover our entry. Her throat felt dry as dust. She forced herself to nod, even though he couldn't see her. Copy. The squad breached. Gunfire roared inside, echoing down the halls. Shouts overlapped. The building shook with violence. Vega tracked the windows, firing when shadows darted past. Her hands steadied through instinct, but her chest felt like it was caving in. Every shot she took, she wondered if it would be enough. Every silence, she wondered if her hesitation would kill someone else inside. Then it happened. Through a blown-out classroom window, she saw the corporal again. He was pinned, an enemy pressing in fast. She had the angle, but it was tight. One wrong move and the bullet would tear through him instead. Her scope wavered, her breath faltered. Do it, don't freeze." The commander's voice didn't come this time. No one shouted at her. No one ordered her. It was her choice alone. Her finger hovered. The enemy raised his rifle, muzzle flashing. Vega pulled the trigger. The man dropped. For a heartbeat, she didn't breathe. Then the corporal's head snapped up, eyes wide. He looked out the window, found her silhouette, and for the first time nodded. A real nod. Not of command, not of question, but of recognition. Her hands trembled as she lowered the rifle. Her breath came in shudders, but for once she hadn't frozen. She hadn't waited. She had chosen. The firefight inside slowed, then ended. The squad emerged minutes later, dragging crates of weapons and battered comms gear. Dust and sweat streaked their faces, but they were alive, all of them. The commander looked up toward her rooftop. His voice came steady. "Good work, Vega." She didn't answer, couldn't. Her throat was too tight. But inside, for the first time in years, the voice of guilt was quieter. Not gone, never gone, but quieter. She watched as the squad regrouped in the street, preparing for the next order. The city loomed still, dangerous and vast, shadows waiting for them. And Vega whispered to herself, so softly no one could hear. One shot closer. The night felt heavier than the city itself. Every alley they passed seemed to lean closer, pressing shadows against their shoulders. Dust clung to sweat-soaked skin. The air tasted of gunpowder and ash. Even silence had weight now, thick, oppressive, more frightening than the bursts of gunfire that had ripped through them earlier. Vega crouched low on a rooftop, scanning with her scope. Below, the squad moved in disciplined silence, their boots crunching softly against broken glass. The corporal was back in formation, his arm bound tight in makeshift bandages. Pain etched across his face, but his steps didn't falter. They hadn't spoken since the schoolhouse firefight. Not really, just curt orders, clipped acknowledgments. Yet something had changed. When his eyes lifted to her rooftop now, there was no suspicion, no silent judgment, just trust, fragile but real. She swallowed hard against it. Trust was dangerous. It demanded you not fail again. The commander's voice broke the silence. "We're close. Objective buildings 2 blocks north." Vega adjusted her scope. The target loomed ahead, a former government outpost, half buried in rubble, its skeletal frame clawing against the night sky. Broken rebar jutted like spears. Windows gaped empty, black mouths waiting to swallow them. Her chest tightened. This wasn't just another objective. It was a tomb waiting to be written. "Intel says high-value cache," the commander continued. "Weapons tech may be intel packets. We secure and exfil fast." No one answered. They didn't need to. Every soldier there had learned that silence meant agreement, meant commitment. But Vega's silence carried something else. Fear. She shifted, scanning higher, wider, searching for shapes, glints, unnatural movements. Nothing, just the suffocating dark. And yet her gut screamed at her, the same instinct that had failed her once years ago. The instinct she hadn't trusted when Tors had walked into an ambush. Her chest ached. Don't freeze, don't doubt. The squad approached the outpost. Vega paralleled them from the rooftops, eyes sharp, finger taut against the trigger guard. Her heart hammered so loud she swore the others could hear it. Then a flicker. 3rd floor, movement in a shattered window, too quick, too subtle to confirm. She exhaled, steadied, sighted in. And froze. Her scope showed nothing now, empty, just black void. Her finger trembled on the trigger. Had she imagined it? Was it another ghost, another Tor's haunting her in the glass? The commander's voice cut through. "Clear the door, go." The squad stacked on the entrance, Vega's chest locked. "Wait," she whispered, but her comms crackled silent. She hadn't pressed transmit. The squad breached. Gunfire exploded instantly, a thunderclap that rattled the night. Muzzle flashes lit the building's hollow insides. Shouts, curses, chaos. "Contact front. 2 down, pushing left. Frag out." The commander's voice was steady, sharp, directing, controlling. But Vega's scope couldn't find order in the storm. Figures darted in and out of shadow. The 3rd floor flickered with movement again, unmistakable this time. "Enemy overwatch." "Sniper," Vega barked, finally pressing transmit. But her warning came a second too late. A shot cracked, deafening, precise. A soldier at the door crumpled, screaming, his leg shattered. Blood sprayed the wall. "Locate him," the commander shouted. Vega's scope locked. She had him. 3rd floor, crouched in shadow, rifle barrel glinting. Perfect shot. Her breath caught. Her vision blurred. Her mind yanked her backward, towards again, pinned under fire, shouting her name. Her scope locked on the shooter then, too. She had the angle. She had the shot. And she hadn't pulled the trigger. Her body shook now, fingers trembling as sweat stung her eyes. "Don't freeze, don't." Another shot rang out. It whistled past the corporal's helmet, slamming sparks off stone. He ducked, cursing. "Vega, take him." Her heart lurched, she squeezed. The sniper collapsed against broken glass, weapon clattering. Vega gasped like she'd surfaced from drowning. Her whole body trembled, but she'd fired. She fired first. "Target down," she forced out, her voice hollow. The commander's voice came steady. "Confirmed, push inside." The squad surged deeper. Vega tracked their movements, firing when shadows flitted across stairwells, dropping hostiles before they reached firing positions. Her scope became her heartbeat, aim, breathe, fire. Again and again, until the building quieted. Then came silence. Not the oppressive silence from before. A different kind, heavier, final. "Clear," the commander said at last. The squad emerged minutes later, dragging crates, battered electronics, maps stained with dust. Their faces were carved in exhaustion, streaked with soot and blood. Vega watched from above, chest heaving. Her trigger finger still twitched. The corporal lifted his gaze to her rooftop. Even through the distance she saw it, a faint smile. Small, fragile, but real. She looked away, unable to hold it. The wounded soldier moaned as 2 others carried him. His leg was mangled beyond saving. Vega flinched at the sound, shame slicing through her chest. If she had warned sooner, fired faster, maybe. Maybe he wouldn't be broken now. The commander spoke, voice low but clear. "We move to exfil fast. Hostiles will regroup." The squad adjusted formation, their steps slow but determined. Vega shadowed them again, every rooftop leap heavier than the last. But in the quiet between, her mind churned. She thought of Tor's, of every hesitation, every failure. And of the shots she had taken tonight, not after a command, not after a desperate shout, but when it had mattered. Her hands still shook, her chest still burned. But for the first time in years, she wondered maybe redemption wasn't found in grand victories. Maybe it was found in single moments, small choices, pulling the trigger when fear begged her not to. The squad disappeared into another alley, their voices fading into the hum of night. Vega lingered on the rooftop, scope aimed at nothing now, eyes stinging with unshed tears. The city loomed vast, scarred, endless. She whispered to herself, voice trembling. One night at a time. The city didn't sleep. It only shifted like a wounded animal circling itself, licking blood from open wounds, waiting to strike again. The squad moved through the ruins in silence. Every step crunched against gravel, every exhale echoed louder than it should. Vega shadowed them from the rooftops, her boots scraping stone, her rifle pressed so tight to her shoulder it felt welded there. They were close now, Exfil Point less than a kilometer north. Close, but not safe. Vega scanned with her scope, eyes burning from hours of unbroken vigilance. The streets below were empty, too empty. No stray dogs, no curious civilians, no distant hum of generators. Just silence thick and unnatural pressing down on her chest. Her gut twisted. Something was coming. The commander must have felt it too. His voice was low, almost a whisper over comms. "Stay sharp, this isn't over." The corporal adjusted his bandages, wincing. He still moved with the unit, refusing to slow them down, but Vega saw his steps falter. She tracked him instinctively, her sights brushing past his outline every few seconds. She remembered his nod back in the schoolhouse. That flicker of trust, fragile like glass, she feared she couldn't carry it much longer. They turned down a wide boulevard lined with shattered cars and collapsed storefronts. The moon spilled pale light over the wreckage, painting sharp edges in silver. Vega leapt rooftop to rooftop, searching windows, corners, shadows. And then, a glint. She froze. Glass, a rifle scope, 2 rooftops ahead, angled low on the squad's path. Her chest clenched, her hands trembled. "Sniper 12 o'clock," she hissed. The squad scattered for cover. The first shot cracked a heartbeat later, tearing through the night. Glass exploded behind them. Another shot bit sparks from pavement inches from the commander's boot. Vega sighted in. The enemy sniper crouched behind a crumbled wall, steady, precise. She exhaled, held. Pulled. The figure crumpled. "Sniper down," she said, voice flat, mechanical. The commander's reply was curt. "Good, keep eyes wide." But the trap had already sprung. Gunfire erupted from both sides of the boulevard. Figures poured from shattered doorways, rooftops, alleys. Muzzle flashes bloomed like fireflies in the dark. Bullets screamed past, slamming into cars, stone, flesh. Contact left and right. The squad ducked, firing back, their shouts drowned by the roar of combat. The corporal stumbled, dropped behind a wrecked truck, blood dripping fresh through his bandages. Vega's scope darted, firing fast, dropping silhouettes before they could reach firing positions. But for everyone that fell, 2 more emerged. This wasn't random. This was organized. An ambush designed to bleed them dry before they reached exfil. The commander's voice cut sharp through chaos. "We push forward, no retreat. Vega, cover us." Her throat locked. Forward meant straight into the fire, straight through them. But there was no other choice. The squad surged, bounding cover to cover. Vega fired until her barrel smoked, picking targets by instinct, muscle memory overriding fear. Yet her chest still burned with every shot, every delay. She shifted position, leaping rooftops to keep pace. Her legs screamed from exhaustion, but she forced them on. She wouldn't freeze now, not when they needed her. A grenade exploded below, rocking the street, hurling dust into the air. For a moment, Vega lost sight of them all. Her heart lurched, panic clawing up her throat. "Status," she barked. "Static," then the commander, 2 down, minor wounds, keep us covered. Figures moved in the haze, enemies, closing fast. Vega dropped them one by one, her breath ragged, scope shaking. Her vision blurred from sweat stinging her eyes, but she kept firing, kept fighting. Then she saw him. The corporal dragging another soldier by the vest, stumbling under the weight. His wounded arm barely held grip, his face pale. Enemies closed in on his flank. Vega swung her rifle, sighted in. And froze. The shot was tight, too tight. One slip and the bullet would tear through both of them. Her hands shook, her heart slammed. Not again, not again. Her finger hovered. She heard Tor's voice in the roar of memory, begging her to act, to cover him. She pulled. The enemy collapsed. The corporal jerked his head toward her rooftop, eyes locking with hers through the chaos. He nodded once, quick, sharp, then pulled the wounded soldier to cover. Her chest heaved. She wanted to cry, scream, collapse, but there was no time. The squad pushed, step by brutal step, carving a path through the ambush. Bodies littered the boulevard. The air stank of cordite and blood. Finally ahead. The exfil point, a collapsed overpass where their transport would meet them. But as they neared, Vega's scope caught movement. A squad of hostiles, larger, better armed, blocking the route. Their weapons were heavier, their formation tighter. This wasn't just another skirmish. This was the wall meant to break them. The commander's voice came low, grim. "This is it. We breach through or we don't leave." The squad checked ammo, magazines slapped into rifles with hollow clicks. No one spoke. No one needed to. Vega felt her lungs seize. This was the moment, not the firefights before, not Tor's ghost. This. Her redemption wasn't in the past. It was in the next 30 seconds. She steadied her rifle, whispering under her breath. No hesitation, not this time. The commander raised his fist, held it, dropped it. The squad surged. Gunfire thundered, lighting the night in bursts of flame. Vega's rifle cracked again and again, every shot tearing through enemies before they could fire back. Her vision tunneled, her breath synced with the rhythm of recoil. And for the first time, she didn't freeze. She led them forward with her scope, clearing the path, shot by shot, until the wall of hostiles crumbled under the storm. The squad broke through, collapsing behind shattered concrete near the overpass. They were bloodied, battered, half-spent, but alive. Silence returned, heavy, shaking silence, broken only by ragged breaths. The commander's voice came quiet, hoarse. "Hold position, exfil inbound." Vega lowered her rifle, her arms trembling so violently she nearly dropped it. Sweat poured down her face, mixing with dust and ash. Below, the squad leaned against rubble, their faces hollow with exhaustion. The corporal sat slumped, his bandages soaked through, but his eyes still found her rooftop. This time he didn't nod, he didn't smile. He just looked at her, steady, unblinking. And for the first time, she didn't look away. Her chest tightened, a sob clawing at her throat, but she forced it down. One night left, one breath at a time. But she had made it here, she had carried them through. And though the war wasn't done, though her ghost still clung to her, Vega felt something she hadn't in years. A flicker of peace. The night was nearly over. The city's edges were softening, shadows paling under the slow crawl of dawn. A thin line of gray brushed the horizon, promising light that had not yet broken through. The squad crouched beneath the collapsed overpass, their bodies sagging with exhaustion. Dust coated their faces, sweat carving streaks across grime. Some clutched wounds wrapped in bloody fabric. Others just stared at the ground, silent, their breaths shaky and uneven. Vega watched from her rooftop perch, scope scanning the distance. Her eyes burned from hours without rest, but she didn't let herself blink too long. Not yet. The commander's voice was low, steady, but quieter than before. "Exfil's 5 out. We hold until then." It wasn't just instruction, it was a prayer. The corporal sat against broken concrete, his arm bandaged tight, chest heaving. He still carried the same stubborn steadiness, but his head tilted back against the stone, his gaze drifting up toward the sky, as if waiting for dawn to give him a reason to keep holding on. Vega's chest squeezed. She had pulled him back from death twice now, and yet she still felt the weight of all the years before when she hadn't. Her hands trembled on the rifle. She whispered into the silence of her scope, "One more night, just one more." But the city wasn't finished with them. Movement stirred at the boulevard's edge. At first just shadows shifting, then figures, dozens, more, emerging from alleys, windows, doorways, an entire wave closing in. Her breath caught. They hadn't come to push them back. They'd come to erase them. She pressed comms. Multiple hostiles approaching fast, south and east. The commander didn't curse. He didn't panic. He just said what every soldier already knew. We hold. The squad adjusted, taking cover behind broken concrete, shattered cars, twisted rebar. Weapons lifted. Ammo checked. Not enough. Nowhere near enough. Vega knew it. They all did. This wasn't a fight to win. It was a fight to last until extraction. The first shots cracked. Muzzle flashes lit the dark. Bullets chewed into stone and steel. The squad answered with their own thunder, the air filling with smoke and fire. Vega fired from above, her rifle barking, each shot dropping a hostile before they could press closer. But the wave didn't falter. It surged, endless, relentless. Her pulse hammered. Her hands burned from recoil. She reloaded fast, too fast, the magazine clattering against stone before she slammed it home. Left flank, they're pushing. The commander's voice snapped orders, his tone sharp enough to cut through chaos. The squad shifted, returning fire. One soldier screamed as a round tore through his leg, dragging him down. Vega swung her scope, sighted in on the man closing in for the kill, and fired. The hostile dropped. Her breath tore from her lungs. She had no time to savor it. Another target, another shot. But they were closing too fast. The corporal fired from behind cover, teeth clenched against the pain in his arm. His shots were slower now, less steady. He ducked, barely missing a burst that shredded stone above his head. Vega's scope tracked another enemy moving on him. She pulled without hesitation. The figure dropped. The corporal looked up toward her perch, eyes locking on her silhouette. And he nodded, not weak this time, not doubtful, but firm, solid. Her chest shook. Her vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. The wave pressed harder. Grenades detonated, dust choking the air. The commander barked for them to hold position. Their line was splintering. Vega leapt from her rooftop to another, desperate to find higher ground, a better angle. Her boots slipped on loose stone, her knees nearly buckling, but she forced herself on. Her lungs burned. Her muscles screamed. She slid behind a crumbling wall, set her rifle and sighted down. Her scope became her lifeline. Every breath, every beat synced with its crosshairs. She fired until the barrel smoked, until the rifle shook in her hands. Enemies fell, one after another, but still they came. Below, the squad was running out of ammo. Their fire slowed, their pauses longer. Desperation clawed at every movement. The commander's voice cracked for the first time. "We need that bird now." Static hissed, then faint broken words through comms. "Inbound, 90 seconds, hold." 90 seconds. An eternity. The wave pressed harder, closer, their shouts echoing through the ruins. Vega's scope tracked them, but her ammo was thinning. She dropped her last magazine into the rifle, chambered the round. 60 seconds. The corporal fell back behind cover, clutching his bleeding arm, his rifle slipping. Another soldier dragged him upright, shouting over the chaos. Vega's throat clenched. She sighted in on the men pressing their position. Fired, fired, fired. 30 seconds. Her rifle clicked empty. Her breath froze. She tore at her vest, searching for another mag. Nothing, empty. The wave surged closer. And in that moment she knew. This was where it ended. Not for all of them, not if she chose differently this time. She dropped the rifle, drew her sidearm, fired fast, desperate, until the slide locked open. Then she stood, chest heaving, staring at the enemy closing in. Her comm crackled, the commander's voice sharp, urgent. "Vega, pull back, get out of there." She didn't answer, couldn't. Her legs moved before her mind caught up, carrying her down broken stairs, through shattered doorways, until she burst into the street, directly into the wave. Her pistol barked empty. She swung her rifle like a club, slamming it into the first hostile, the second. Bullets ripped past her, dust filled her lungs. But it was enough. The enemy turned toward her, pulled from the squad. Their fire shifted, their charge stuttered. And in that stolen breath, the sound split the air, the roar of rotors. The transport bird dropped from the sky, searchlights cutting through dust. Its guns ripped into the street, carving gaps through the wave. The squad surged forward, dragging the wounded, sprinting for the light. Vega staggered, breath ragged, her body shaking. She lifted her rifle again, fired the last round she didn't know was chambered. One more hostile dropped. Then a burst slammed into her chest. She fell back, the world tilting, sound collapsing into a muffled hum. The sky above was pale now, dawn bleeding into gray. She gasped, air burning her lungs, blood soaking her gear. Her hands reached for her rifle, but it slipped from her grasp. Through blurred vision, she saw the squad sprinting into the light, into safety. The corporal half carried, half dragged by another soldier, his face twisted in pain. He turned once, his eyes locking with hers across the chaos. And he nodded. Her chest seized. A tear slipped free, cutting through grime. The world dimmed, her breath faltered. And in the final silence, she heard it, not Tor's voice, not her guilt, not her fear. Just quiet. Peaceful. The bird lifted, carrying them away. Vega lay in the ruins, dawn breaking above her. And the city for once was still. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.